The night Mrs. Vance cut power to my flood pumps. She thought she was teaching me a lesson. 5 minutes later, I rolled a trailer into my driveway that could keep a small grocery store alive during a blackout. And by sunrise, half the neighborhood was plugged into it. I know how that sounds, like one of those stories somebody tells after 3 beers. But if you had been standing there in the rain with me, watching that woman hold up a laminated violation notice like it was the Constitution, you would understand why before I even got mad. My name is Carter Hayes, and I live in Maple Ridge Estates, a tidy neighborhood outside Charlotte where every mailbox is black. Every roof is approved gray, and every blade of grass looks like it filed paperwork before growing. I moved there because my daughter liked the school district. And after my divorce, I wanted something steady. Quiet street, small porch, decent garage. The problem was, I am an electrical contractor, and quiet men with tool trailers make certain people nervous. Mrs. Evelyn Vance was president of the property board. Basically an HOA with better stationery and worse manners. Silver hair sprayed into a helmet, red glasses on a chain, voice sharp enough to slice paper. From the day I bought the house, she looked at me like I had parked a carnival ride in her living room. My work van was commercial presence. My stacked conduit was visual clutter. The small drainage outlet behind my hydrangeas was inconsistent with the community's water management aesthetic. Nothing says civilization like arguing about the emotional impact of a pipe. That pipe mattered. My house sat on the low bend of the street, and when Virginia rain got serious, water came downhill like it had an appointment in my basement. So I installed 2 commercial sump pumps, backup float switches, a dedicated circuit, and a weatherproof service box. It was clean, safe, permitted, and inspected. Evelyn still hated it. She called it an unauthorized industrial drainage feature. I said, "Ma'am, if my basement fills up, you can call it a water feature." She did not laugh. For 3 months, the notices came. Warning, fine, final fine, all dressed up in legal language and passive-aggressive, bold font. I ignored most of them because the rules she quoted never matched what she was mad about. She was not protecting property values. She was protecting the feeling that nobody could tell her no. The storm rolled in on a Thursday evening. Rain hammered the windows sideways. Gutters overflowed before dinner. I went downstairs, checked the pumps, watched them kick on smooth and steady, and felt that private little satisfaction a man feels when his overthinking finally becomes useful. A little after 9, the house lights flickered. Not out. Just a blink. My coffee maker stayed on. The refrigerator kept humming. Hot. But from below me, the pump noise disappeared. No growl, no rush of water, no vibration in the floor. Just silence. That silence had weight. It fell over the house like somebody had closed a coffin lid. I ran to the basement. Water was already climbing in the pit, swirling dark around the floats. The inside breaker was fine. The pump breaker was on. I flipped it off and back on. Nothing. I checked every connection I could reach. Still. Dead. And then I thought of Evelyn. Nobody wants to believe a neighbor would do something truly dangerous over a rulebook. Petty, sure. Annoying, absolutely. But dangerous? That takes a special kind of confidence. I grabbed my rain jacket and went outside. The wind shoved water under my hood and down my neck. I followed the conduit to the shared utility cabinet near the greenbelt. The cabinet door was open. Inside, my pump circuit was locked off with a shiny blue padlock. Not tripped, not failed. Locked, a plastic sleeve was zip-tied to the handle, and inside it was a letter with Evelyn's signature at the bottom. Immediate suspension of unauthorized auxiliary drainage power draw, pending compliance review. Then, power access may be restored upon removal of non-conforming drainage outlet and payment of accumulated penalties. For a second, I was not angry. I was amazed. The woman had gone out in a flood, opened a utility box, shut down the one thing keeping my house dry, and laminated the reason. Then the water in my basement splashed in my mind, and the amazement burned away. I looked back at my garage. Inside was my side project, the thing everybody teased me about. It's a mobile emergency power trailer. I had built from salvage jobs and late nights, loaded with a quiet diesel generator. Battery bank, inverter stack, load panel, and enough heavy cable to make a lineman nod respectfully. I called it Big Blue because it was painted navy, and because marital counseling replacement project was too long to stencil on the side. Evelyn had cut me off from the board's power. Fine, I had my own. I backed my truck into the garage, hitched Big Blue, and rolled it into the driveway. Rain sheeted off the trailer roof. The work light snapped on, throwing white beams across the street. My neighbor Brody opened his front door in pajama pants and a poncho. "Carter," he yelled, "is that thing legal?" I yelled back, "Brody, tonight we are about to find out." I connected the grounding rod, checked fuel, checked voltage, and ran a feeder cable to the pump inlet. My hands were wet and shaking, not from fear exactly, more from that strange current that runs through you when the next minute matters. I flipped the ignition. The generator coughed once, then caught with a deep, steady rumble, loud enough to let the living know I was done being polite. I watched the meter settle. Then I grabbed the main load switch. "Come on, girl," I muttered. The switch clacked down. From under the house came the sweetest sound I had ever heard, both pumps roaring back to life together. 10 seconds later, water blasted from the outlet like a fire hose aimed at the storm drain. It was ugly, loud, and beautiful. I stood there soaked to my socks, grinning like a fool. That was when Evelyn appeared. She came marching through the rain in a clear plastic poncho, carrying an umbrella that had already turned inside out. "Mr. Hayes," she shouted. "Turn that machine off immediately." I leaned against the truck, because sometimes the best way to win an argument is to look less bothered than the other person. "Evening Evelyn. Do not evening me. That is a commercial generator. You are violating noise rules, driveway use rules, and at least 3 emergency aesthetic provisions. Emergency aesthetic provisions," I repeated. "Did you write those before or after you locked out my flood pumps?" Her mouth tightened. "Your system was unauthorized. It was permitted by the county, not by this board. Evelyn, with respect, your board cannot overrule gravity." She pointed at Big Blue. "I am calling the police." "Please do," I said. "Tell them you shut down flood equipment during an emergency. Start with that part. It will save time." The officer arrived 20 minutes later, tired, rain-soaked, and deeply unimpressed with all of us. His name was Miller, and he had the face of a man who had spent the evening pulling cars out of water and did not want to referee suburban nonsense. Evelyn rushed him first, talking fast about machinery, neighborhood safety, and quality of life. I waited. My basement was pumping. That gave me patience. When Officer Miller turned to me, I said, "She locked off the circuit to my pumps. Here is the permit. Here are photos of the padlock. Here is the violation letter. My generator is grounded, isolated, and powering only my equipment. I'm preventing damage to my home." He looked at the photos. Then he looked at Evelyn. "Ma'am, did you put this lock on the circuit?" She lifted her chin. "As president of the board, I acted under our authority." "That is not what I asked." The rain hit the driveway between us, loud enough to fill the silence. Finally, she said, "Yes." Officer Miller sighed. "Ma'am, I strongly suggest you go inside. I am not shutting down working flood prevention in the middle of a flood warning." And I would not touch that utility cabinet again until somebody from the county explains exactly how much authority you do not have. Evelyn's face went pale in the trailer lights. For the first time since I had known her, she did not have a sentence ready. By midnight, the story had spread faster than the water. Brody needed power for his pump. The young couple across the street needed a wet vac, and Mrs. Higgins had water creeping toward her son's basement bedroom. What was I supposed to say? Sorry, community ascetics. We ran cords, big ones, safely, above water, through garages and under porch roofs. Brody became my accidental assistant, shouting addresses and carrying cable like we were landing planes in a war zone. For 3 hours, Big Blue hummed in my driveway, while the neighborhood that once whispered about my commercial presence plugged into it one house at a time, and Evelyn watched from behind her curtains. At dawn, the rain finally weakened. The street looked wrecked, but most basements on our block were dry or close to it. Evelyn's yard had not been saved by any aesthetic provision. Muddy water had cut a brown scar straight through her perfect lawn. I did not cheer. I wanted to, but I did not. There is a difference between justice and enjoying somebody else's damage, and I was trying to stay on the right side of it. By noon, county utilities had removed her padlock and written a report. My buddy Tyler helped me install a cleaner, permanent transfer setup, fully inspected and fully documented. By Monday, every homeowner had received a county notice clarifying that the board had no authority to interfere with permitted flood prevention systems. By Friday, Evelyn resigned, citing stress and a hostile community environment. Now, some people say I embarrassed her. Maybe I did. Some say I should have handled it quietly through lawyers. Maybe they are right. But when water is rising around your foundation, when somebody with a title and a clipboard decides your home is less important than their control, quiet starts to feel like permission. I still live in Maple Ridge Estates. The mailbox is still black. The roofs are still gray. But nobody complains about my drainage outlet anymore. After the storm, 4 neighbors upgraded their pumps to bought backup batteries. And Brody keeps joking that we should make Big Blue the official emergency mascot. As for me, I learned something that night. A tipo do not always underestimate you because you are weak. Sometimes they underestimate you because you are calm. They confuse patience with fear. They mistake kindness for surrender. And when the moment finally comes, when you flip the switch and show them what you are building in silence, they call it overreacting. So I will ask you this: was I wrong to fire up that trailer and turn my driveway into a neighborhood lifeline? Should I have obeyed the board, let my basement flood, and fought it later in court? Or did Evelyn cross a line the second she put that lock on my pump circuit? Drop your answer in the comments, because I really want to know where you stand. And if you have ever seen a small person with a little authority put homes or lives at risk just to prove a point, tell that story too. Sometimes justice does not arrive in a suit. Sometimes it rolls in on a trailer, smells like diesel, and hums through the ring. Subscribe to HO Drama Neighbor for more.